Is up YouTube? It's your girl Evelyn, and I am back with a Season 1 recap of Wynonna Earp. I will be spoiling the entire first season, so proceed with caution. Wynonna Earp is the great-granddaughter of the legendary lawman Wyatt Earp. But Wynonna is far from a chip off the old block. She's the wisecracking, hard-living, binge-drinking personification of a bad reputation in gloriously tight leather pants. Waverly Earp is Wynonna's plucky little sister, with a penchant for midriff-bearing shirts. She's also an amateur historian, and has spent her entire life collecting intel about these strange happenings in their hometown, the aptly named Purgatory. The humorless but annoyingly hot Deputy Marshal Dawes is in Purgatory investigating those same strange happenings. Dawes works for the Black Badge Division of the US Marshals, which is kinda like a corrupt version of the X-Files. And last but not least is John Henry, the heavy-drinking, sweet-talking, blue-eyed gunslinger better known as Doc Holliday. Yep, that Doc Holliday. Wyatt Earp's former bestie made a deal with the devil, or something close, and was granted eternal longevity. Everyone knows that Wyatt Earp shot a couple of bad dudes at the OK Corral, but what Wikipedia fails to mention is that during his career, Wyatt killed 77 outlaws with his gun Peacemaker, and he was cursed for it. After Wyatt's death, those same 77 outlaws were resurrected as demons, aka revenants, which sucks for Wyatt's family, specifically his heir, the oldest living Earp at any given time. Activated on their 27th birthday, the heir is the only person who can fire Wyatt's gun Peacemaker, thus sending the revenants back to hell. But there's a catch. When the current heir dies, all their kills are resurrected. Back in the day, Wynonna and Waverly lived with their big sister Willa and father Ward, the current heir at the time, on the Earp homestead. All we know about the missing Mama Earp is that she apparently ran off when the girls were young because, well, demons suck. A group of 7 revenants stormed the homestead and snatched both Ward and Willa, but as they dragged Ward away, 12-year-old Wynonna fired Peacemaker and accidentally hit Ward, killing him. Waverly and Wynonna survived, but poor Willa was kidnapped by the revenants and presumed dead. After the attack, Waverly was taken in by their Uncle Curtis and Aunt Gus, but Wynonna was committed to St. Victoria's psychiatric facility because that's what happens when you tell people you were aiming at demons but accidentally shot your father. Once Wynonna came of age, she skipped town and became somewhat of a drifter, bumming around Europe looking for a good time and not much else. In Season 1, Wynonna arrives back in Purgatory for her uncle's funeral, which just so happens to be the day of her 27th birthday. It soon becomes clear that her uncle's death wasn't an accident, considering that his head was ripped cleanly from his body. The Earp girls recognize a revenant kill when they see one, and Wynonna retrieves Peacemaker from the bottom of their well. But Peacemaker's not the only thing that's been itching to get out of the well. The eternally young Doc Holliday climbs out looking pretty darn good for a 165-year-old. It seems the witch who blessed him with eternal longevity also stuck him on the bottom of the well because, well, reasons. Doc's on his own quest for vengeance against the witch, but he also sticks around and offers the Earp girls his conditional help from time to time. While Wynonna and Waverly are getting their Scooby Gang on, trying to figure out why the revenants are acting up, Deputy Dawes convinces Wynonna to join the Black Badge Division. And the Scooby Gang is upgraded to an entire wing of the Sheriff's Department, because Black Badge has deep pockets and even deeper connections. We also discover some super important revenant killing rules. Number 1. Revenants can only be killed if they are shot between the eyes with Peacemaker and only by the air. Number 2. If a revenant touches Peacemaker, It burns them like a mother effer. Number 3. Revenants cannot leave purgatory. They are trapped inside a triangle of land known as the Ghost River Triangle. And if a revenant does step foot outside of the triangle, it's pretty bad. Number 4. Revenants cannot enter the Earp homestead due to AMMOLITE, a substance that wards off evil, and the homestead happens to be built on tons of the stuff. The reason the Revenants were able to attack the homestead back in the day was because they got their hands on a talisman that counteracted the AMMOLITE. And last but not least, number 5. Never kill a Revenant in front of human civilians. Unfortunately, the Black Badge Division doesn't use neuralizers to erase the memories of civilians who've seen too much. They use bombs. Wynonna reluctantly sets out to fulfill her mission as the Earp heir, to take out as many Revenants as she can, starting with the 7. While Wynonna and Doll's dispatch of mirror demons, shadow assassins, and cannibalistic Revenants, Doc does some Revenant recon and discovers the identity of the big baddie behind the Revenant uprising. Bobo Del Rey is the telekinetic leader of the current crop of Revenants, and has a long and complicated history with the Earps. But in Season 1, Bobo is simply public enemy number 1. He's working with Constance CLOOTIE, aka the Stone Witch, aka the chick that dropped Doc in the bottom of a well and left him to rot. Constance has something Bobo desperately wants, and will give it to him if he brings her the scattered bones of her 2 sons, so she can resurrect them. Wynonna spends most of the first season sending every Revenant she can find back to hell. She gets some help from Purgatory police officer NICOLE HAUGHT, who immediately catches Waverly's eye and things develop from there. Sheriff NEDLEY also becomes an unlikely ally. And despite all of the Revenant killing, Wynonna and Doc still find the time to get a little closer. And although Wynonna is hot and heavy with Doc, she's clearly crushing on Dolls too. But the deputy marshal keeps her at arm's length. I'm guessing it has something to do with the weird secret medication he periodically takes that makes his eyes do this. The Stone Witch's plan to resurrect her ugly kids eventually goes belly up, thanks to Waverly, and Doc finally gets his revenge when he and Wynonna bury Constance up to her neck in salt. By now, Wynonna has fully embraced being the Earp heir, so of course, while dispatching of the Revenant Jim Jones and saving the young women in his cult, Wynonna meets Eve, a young woman with a limited memory, who happens to resemble a certain Earp sister who was kidnapped 15 years ago. That's right, Big Sister Willa is back, and after regaining her memory, she's ready to take up her mantle as the rightful Earp heir. But a few things soon become apparent. Willa's kind of a bitch, and she's definitely keeping secrets. Apparently, after the Revenants kidnapped Willa, they held her in a big-ass treehouse, where she was eventually freed by our fave witch, Constance CLOOTIE. But days before Willa's 27th birthday and her subsequent heir activation, Constance erased her memory. After that, it gets a little fuzzy, but somehow Willa was stolen from Constance and ended up in the care of the Revenant Jim Jones. But what Willa doesn't divulge is that bad boy Revenant with the heart of gold, Bobo Del Rey, was all up in her business in the treehouse, and the two of them eventually fell in love. Which means Willa's true allegiance isn't to the Earps, it's to Bobo. And if that wasn't bad enough, we also find out that Daddy Ward tried to take the easy way out of the Earp curse by making a deal with Bobo to attack the homestead. Okay, stay with me. There's only one way for Revenants to escape the Ghost River Triangle.
Shush!
The Earp heir, along with Peacemaker, must willingly walk out of the triangle on winter solstice. It seems that Ward was going to help Bobo escape the triangle in exchange for sparing his girls, but things didn't go quite as planned. And after Wynonna killed Ward, Bobo took Willa, knowing she could help him escape the triangle when she turned 27. And he would have gotten away with it too, if it wasn't for that pesky witch. Also, sometime during all this craziness, Bobo tells Waverly that she's not really an Earp. And because there's not quite enough unexplainable things going on, a random old dude by the name of CARLO is going around dropping fortune cookie knowledge on everyone, but does nothing to help because he, quote-unquote, can't interfere. Eventually, Willa and Bobo get back together, and Willa crosses the line with Peacemaker in her hand. But it turns out, not only does the triangle keep bad things from escaping, but it also keeps bad things from entering. Like the world's largest demon sand snake thingy. The beast grabs Willa and Wynonna mercifully puts a bullet in her sister's head before the thing can tear Willa apart. And everyone lived happily ever after. JK. The creepy folks from the Black Badge grab both Dolls and Bobo. Dolls because he disobeyed orders, and Bobo because he's a revenant. But as they drive over the Purgatory line and Bobo begins to melt from the inside out, Wynonna mercifully puts a bullet between his eyes. But we all know that Black Badge doesn't leave witnesses behind, so there's an active order to nuke Purgatory. What's left of the Scooby Gang regroups, and before Wynonna can go after the bad guys, Waverly touches a pool of the black goop left behind by the sand snake demon thingy, and this happens. And that is it for the Season 1 recap. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.